This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Yeah, surf the beat cause the bass is bubbling. Gotta get it in before it comes tumbling down. There's only so much time to find this kind of rhyme to express my mind. Cause everything that has ever been made will eventually fade like the money you made.
Welcome to the CageCast. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Essa, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 8 of Luke Cage. If it ain't rough, it ain't right. Well, Shades of Mariah and Misty come to terms with the previous night's events. Bushmaster searches for a way to boost his strength. Director is Nima Barnett. Of course, Archie Goodwin and George Tuska get some created by characters at Marvel Comics credits. Roy Thomas, John Romita Sr., and of course, Chio Hodari Coker gets our created by credit, and Nathan Lewis Jackson. Let's see here. As you will recall, last episode, Mariah said she wants to hire Luke as her hero. And we see how that plays out this week. Especially when it comes to having money to hire people with.
Indeed.
Because that is kind of our overarching problem in this story is that, that basically the worm turns, as it were. It is a very interesting aspect of this story because, and, not for nothing, it's an interesting way they approach this over this episode, the next episode, and the subsequent episodes, how they handle the legal definition of ownership and money and how things get transferred back and forth. Because if you think this is the end of Mariah Stokes, you are sorely mistaken, and I'm sure we can all agree to that.
Right.
So to open up, we have of course as the townhouse burns.
I think we open up on Shades on the rooftop mourning his friend's death. Whether that friend actually died last night or whether he died a long time ago is up for debate, I guess.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, metaphorical death.
Right. Did the Comanche he knew die the moment he decided to turn, even if he justified it in his own mind as a way to get them both out,
Yeah. Well, you know what it is I think it's I think the wound is fresh, I think that's the kind of wound that's always going to be fresh, and I think this is, I think one of the things about Shades is that he is human. He plays himself very cold, but he has attachments. He's not the sociopath that people think he is, because he does have these attachments and he does have these emotional strengths. He can kill someone he's attached to if he has to. He will do what he has to in a moment when he has to do it. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have those attachments.
Right. But that's also sort of like the source of his strength, his pragmatism, and his loyalty. So I think those two things are his defining characteristics for me,
Yeah, he is very much, I like to think, the old school. He's the old school gangster, He is, in every sense of the term. He is a guy, he believes that there is a code and that there's honor among thieves. And of course, the first thing any thief will tell you is that we say that honor among thieves thing just to lull other thieves into a false sense of security. As they say, a contract is a contract, but only among Ferengi, and I'm not sure you're quite that Ferengi, and it is the reality of Shades that he is from a world that has in many ways passed him by because the world is changing. and the world has been changing, and he has been a part of that change. But as often happens, you're a part of that change. You move the great machine forward, but that doesn't keep it from getting ground in its own gears.
Right.
And I think that's where poor old Shades is finding himself this week. He has found himself, even though he is not out of control yet, he still is being ground into the gears.
Right, but it's like, I think my favorite part in this was the moment in the burned down brownstone between Mariah and Shades, where they sort of both rediscover who they are. I thought that was a really powerful scene.
Well, yeah, and it is a great moment. The Mariah and Shades story. It is, it's always this question of, is it true love, or is it only as much love as someone like them can have?
Right, but I think to anyone that's what love means. The only love you can know is the love that you can have, and you got to make do with what the world gives you. But at the same time, I think in that scene was the first time I sort of looked past the sort of the business nature of their relationship and looked past the weirdness factor of their relationship and saw them as a man and a woman. I think for the first time he was there when they had this little sort of dust up inside the police station where they thought or he thought she turned on him, and they show up and you don't know how they're going to react, but in their moment of need, they were there for each other, and that's exactly what they needed. So it was interesting from that perspective for me.
I watch a lot of the old TV shows, and I watch Maverick a lot. And there's a good episode I was watching recently with, it was a Maverick episode. It was one of the ones that had both Bart and Brett Maverick, both Garner and Kelly. And Garner says to his brother at this one point, because they had gotten themselves in way too deep on some big scam that they were trying to run, and he makes this point to his brother. It's like, look, we've been broke before. We've never been dead before. And we can come back from being broke, but we can't come back from being dead. And I think along those same levels, there is this idea here. I mean, not quite as that defeatist, but kind of that opposite tone is, yeah, we're broke, but we can come back from being broke. We're not dead. And, as Terry Gilliam says, we Yellowbeards are never more dangerous than when we're dead. And I do think that is the point that we are to take from this, is that, yeah, they are not dead, and they are going to find their way out of this. And they are. Because we can already see how much Bushmaster is coming undone.
Right. Which is surprising to me. Like, if he didn't want them to live, then why would he walk out without, I don't know.
Well, because he's trying to recreate, and this is what I've realized, because there was a very interesting idea about why he untied
Tilda.
And I thought it was because he was like, he was saying, Tilda, you can save your mother. But actually what I think he was saying is, you can choose to burn yourself, or you can run like I did. That basically almost like he was saying, had I been a better son, I would have allowed myself to burn.
Yeah. And if you think you're that much better than me, then prove it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have no idea. And this is the thing. I think the Deadly Nightshade is going to the brain. And I think that is really what we're seeing with him here. And we see this, and his uncle tells him, it's poisoning your soul. I can tell it's poisoning your soul. I can tell it is destroying you. And it is, because as his uncle says, you've got everything you want. And and he is so mad. You see him tear the chair apart when he finds out that Luke Cage saved Mariah Stokes.
See, I'm surprised that his own people haven't realized that their real enemy is Bushmaster.
Well, but you know what? It's sort of it's sort of like Trump.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like he's off the edge, but the fact of the matter is, and they all know he's off the edge, but he got him there. They're in this position of power, and it's like this. Okay, yeah, he's kind of crazy. he's maybe making some bad choices, but maybe we can mitigate his choices. Maybe we can be the resistance from within. Maybe we can get what we want without necessarily selling our souls. But I think the moral of the story is you can't. You can't. And I think that is the real point here, is that Bushmaster is going to undo everything he's built, everything everyone has built, in his quest for this revenge. And I think that you saw something similar previously with Diamondback. And in fact, I think that if there's a story to be told, it is just how there is so much corruption, and how that corruption does feed on you. Even though you think you're being noble, you can't be noble if your cause is unjust. And in the end, his cause is unjust, because for all the people that, did wrong by him, the people he's attacking aren't the people who did wrong by him. Buggy is dead. What's his name? Mom's is dead, and her, the uncle is dead. All these people are dead. Everyone is dead, and it's really now just taking it to another generation that honestly was largely unaware of what this issue was. Because, and this is the thing, had he come, and let me give you an example in this. So let's say he had come to Mariah at that time and said, our families have this history. You may not know this, but this is what we came from, and this was, and I know you want to get out of this business. I would like to buy into this business. And they could have had parlay. They could have found a peace. But of course, he has spent his whole life not seeking peace. He has been seeking war, and so and if you seek war, war will find you. That there was no way that this was ever going to end any other way than with violence and blood. And the fact of the matter is, I think maybe that is maybe a telling point in the idea that he is leaving Tilda free to choose death. And then I think maybe that's what Bushmaster wants more than anything, is he actually would rather die in this moment, in this fight. Maybe on the unconscious level, he would rather.
Right, I think because I don't think he thinks there's anything after that. That he's served his life's purpose if he avenges his mother's death, or he allows himself to finally burn the way he should have.
And they do make the point that the deadly nightshade does burn him. And of course, and for what it's worth, his obsession with the deadly nightshade, which is working like, and it is like a drug. It is he can't maintain his high. He can't. It is slowly destroying him. And his uncle is saying that, like, look, you've got all of this now. Why do you need to fight? And it's like, because he has to, because he doesn't know anything but the fight, because he doesn't have a purpose. He never found a way to live. He only found a way to fight. And, ironically, if Mariah actually had died, I think he would have even gone further over the edge, because then he would have been completely unmoral.
Purposeless, yeah, and lost.
Yeah, I think he would have gone head on to Luke Cage, hoping that Luke Cage would just kill him, because he knows he is no match for Luke Cage. He knows that, and he knows that from the last time they fought. That if he can sucker punch Luke Cage, or can get the zombie powder out, but even that didn't kill him. That was the thing. It's like, that was his best option, that sucker punching Luke Cage, he could knock him down, but then Luke Cage gets back up. You can zombie powder Luke Cage, toss him into the river, Luke Cage still gets back up. You can't beat Luke Cage, and that realization that with Luke Cage as his enemy, he will never. He is an enemy he can't defeat. And I think that's why it's all the more frustrating for him than that Luke Cage saved Mariah, because he knows if Luke Cage is protecting Mariah, there's not much he can do. Although, of course, they try, and they come up with the idea that, you go find out what they love and you squeeze. And we do get to see Luke Cage's dad. Nobody shoots my baby.
There's something, adorable and charming about that,
It is, and he beats up the guy. He's got that old man adrenaline strength,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, that actor actually did pass away after the completion of this series.
His dad?
Yeah, the actor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because in the final episode, they dedicate the whole series to him. It happens,
Yeah.
And he got a great final role, and that's all any actor can ever ask for, is a great final role. And he certainly gets this love, and of course, what we see is that as the Stylers try to squeeze Mariah and Luke, again, they're outmatched, because the fact of the matter is that between Mariah, between Misty, between the people that aren't going to let them turn Harlem into a war zone, they are more powerful in this universe, that the heroes are more powerful than the villains. And this is the only thing that keeps the villains at bay, of course, is that if it were the other way around, there would be no heroes, but the heroes actually, as luck would have it, are the more powerful of the group. And they are the only people who have the moral fortitude not to use their powers for evil. One hopes. We'll see how all that plays out later. But in this moment, the Stylers go to shoot up the church, which is like, oh man, you are just asking. I mean, not for nothing. I don't care how even and first off, even if you are a strong practitioner of voodoo, you don't go mess up a church, man, because those saints are in there. Even if it's not their church, they're going to take offense at you showing lack of respect to other people's churches too. So you shoot up a church and in a baptism ceremony, it is just asking for some lightning bolts to come down on you, man. That's all I'm saying. But in this case, they do manage. They do get defeated badly. They go after Mariah, and one of the things I actually love in this is Sugar and Mariah. It's one of the little things that, because Sugar is the one guy who's still loyal, and loyal just because he's a good. It's like he is loyal because he sees no reason not to be loyal.
And they've been loyal to him.
Exactly. The Stokes were loyal to him. He's loyal to them. He actually, he is like Shades without the sociopathology. He's the good, or the well, yeah, because he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be a kingpin. You know how many hours you got to put in as a kingpin? Everyone's trying to bump you out. It's hard work to be a kingpin, man. Who would want that job? Is basically Sugar's perspective. But when he says, my wife can loan you some clothes, and we can get you through, and you can tell that Mariah really appreciates the kindness, even though she is not a fan of Sugar's wife's clothes.
The rags, as she puts them.
Yeah, well, this is a woman. She's used to Chanel, and this is Channel. It's the knockoff of Chanel. It's and she can tell the difference. Yeah, it's the Chinatown special. Speaking of which, we'll get to that later because we're gonna go start the CageCast again, or not the CageCast, the Ironcast again tonight. Now that it is dropped, just to give you a sense of when we're recording all this. Okay, so let's see. What have we covered? We've covered. Oh, what we haven't really covered, and it's ironic because it's like one of the biggest points of the whole episode.
Rittenhauer's death, right?
No, I mean Rittenhauer, yeah. I mean that's big. We do see that Mariah and Shades are being interrogated on it. No, the big storyline here is Mariah's lawyer, who comes in because, as far as he knows, all the checks aren't bouncing yet. And halfway through Shades' interrogation, gets the call that, oh, by the way, the funds have been transferred. The checks are no longer coming from this person. And we actually see, Bushmaster make a mention of this later. I believe when I forget who he's talking to when he makes the point that he's got Mariah's, that basically he has Mariah's lawyer too. He's got her club, he's got her money, and now he even has her lawyer.
Yeah, see, I wonder if that's where the call came from initially, letting him know that, I own you now. I took over everything, so you could either work for me.
No, the lawyer wouldn't just take that as the call. It would have to come from his secretary. It'd have to come from his accountant. This is a guy, and not for nothing, he's a guy who is coming in based on what the situation is, and is leaving once the situation for him has changed. And he's not just going to do it on a whim. He's not just going to take anybody's word for it. This is millions of dollars we're talking about. And you don't walk away from that unless you think there's a really good chance it's not coming back. Although, what I'll say is I think that there's an interesting thing we'll talk about next episode about what he probably did to change what the lawyer is. I think this is behind the scenes stuff with the lawyer that we don't really get privy to, but we can fan theory about. But we'll do that next episode because that's not something that comes out till next episode. But it's always hard with these shows because there's so much that goes on and so much that gets resolved and restarted and reinterpreted as the story progresses. Let's see here. But that I thought was like one of the most important things. And I think it makes this great dichotomy between the lawyer and Sugar, because in both cases it was, the Stokes helped me when I needed help. And Mariah makes the point that, Mom, we put you through law school. You would be nothing without us. And he makes the point, and the lawyer makes the point, I've always been loyal to your money. That's all I'm loyal to.
Right.
And what we see with Sugar is it's not about the money. Because, if it was about the money, he could, any number of things, He could probably make his own money if he had to. We saw at the start of the show, he's doing bodyguarding and driving now, He's got his own side gig, and he can make his own money. He doesn't need to help these people, except that they helped him when he was at his lowest.
Yeah, that, and it's sort of like you got to have a work family too, in a sense where like these people know you, you know what I mean? And so they already know your little nuances and what they spend time getting them comfortable with the relationship they're making with their money versus you,
Exactly. And I think that's why, as this story progresses, I think there's something where, here's what I'm going to tell you. I mean, just because I have seen the whole series, I will say that Sugar does not go unrewarded for his loyalty. And he finds himself the one person who really, because he, just to make it all a morality play, because he did the right thing as far as being a good man and a good soldier and a good person to those around him, he actually comes out better for it. He actually comes out way better for it, which we see by the end of the series. But we'll get to that in a few short episodes, because this is episode 8 and there's only 13 episodes, so we got 5 more broadcasts after this, and then you'll start hearing the Iron Cast, which, as I said, we're going to record later on tonight.
The other thing in this episode that I thought was worth noting was, and enjoyable for me, was the scene between Misty and the other female cop, and the begrudging respect she has for Misty. and how they sort of bury the hatchet, and then to see them fight side by side was really fun too.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice to see whenever there is, a resolution to that kind of negative feeling.
And it's sort of also a explanation for it, because their vitriol to each other seemed sort of like way too deep rooted to be, just coworkers who just started working together or whatever. So it's like, oh, they knew each other from high school and didn't like each other. But there's also that same begrudging respect that rivals have in that arena, So I thought that was kind of interesting and a cool way to make sense of that.
Yeah, well, it's your classic tale of I mean, it's the guy who had a headache the day that Lou Gehrig first went up at bat, and then never got his spot back again. It was a story about how a person lost their spot and someone else took it, and then there is this negativity. And it's interesting because within that concept there is this, I mean, obviously brought down to petty high school level, but it is the same story that we see with Mariah and Bushmaster, which is that Bushmaster feels he's owed a spot. But of course, I think if there's anything to take away from this, it's that you're not owed that spot. We're a family of, and just to put it obvious, they're a family of criminals. And they had a falling out between two criminals. And of the two criminals, one criminal wanted to do one thing, and the other criminal said, no, we don't want to do that. And the criminal who said, no, we're going to do this, wound up being right, because they wound up doing just fine, That really, I think, had Bushmaster's father or grandfather or whatever. Honestly, the timelines are kind of weird in this whole thing. Because they're talking about prohibition and stuff like that. How old are you people, really? None of that seems to be quite right to me. But, it's comic book sliding time. Captain America punched Hitler. And it just strikes me as like, yeah, had they just accepted that, okay, look, we want to build a business for this long term, and these are these forces that are at play outside of us, but we can have our castle, if we just work together with other criminals. If we work together with other people, we can actually still maintain what we have, but they didn't want the other guy didn't want to give that inch, just like Bushmaster doesn't want to give that inch, and that guy got shot in the belly, and you know what? So might I mean, I think that Bushmaster is gonna receive negative outcomes for his hubris as well. Because I think it's what we see, because we see right now about how he can't get his herbs to get his powers. And suddenly he's like, well, we can manufacture it. And his uncle's like, you can't just manufacture it. This isn't stuff that you can just make. That's not how it works. It needs the magic of the blue mountain soil, And given that this is, the Marvel Universe, I think that's a completely legitimate scientific statement to think. Like, there's magic in that soil. That's what makes it work, because we can't make it grow anywhere else in the world. It's not the seed, it's the soil. And if you can't get it to grow right, and not for nothing, that actually is scientifically a fair concept, because, of course, biological organisms, they're very complex. And the slightest bit off can change the way the organic chemicals within it will form. So, you need precise conditions to get the deadly nightshade that gives you superpowers, doesn't just kill you. So
right, it's the same thing with in the shamans of South America and Peru, they have a brew called ayahuasca, which is an orally digestible form of DMT. And somehow these shamans figured out was that DMT has ways of breaking it down so that we don't ever experience the effects of DMT, but somehow they figured out that other plants have MAOI inhibitors, right? And so that stops the chemical in our body from breaking down the DMT in a way that's not digestible. And so it's the same sort of aspect of finding the combination of plants that unlock their true potential.
Exactly. I mean, that's
that has bearing in the real world.
You know, not for nothing, as we've said before, you know, this zombie stuff, it's real. You know, it's not quite the way it's as it is in the movies or in the comic books, but there is actually a great deal of, you know, scientific evidence and, you know, a lot of ancient experimentation, you know. You know, the scientific method may have been written down by, I forget that guy's name. Who was that? Who was the ancient Greek who first wrote down the scientific method? But anyway, but the idea of human experimentation, that is something that humans have been doing all over the world for centuries. And often it took the form of shamans doing things. They're like saying, okay, what does this herb do? Okay, well, we don't want to do that next time, so let's see what this herb does. And, you know, as with chemists to this day, well, let's lick it, see what happens. Can you lick the science, as the old meme goes? Okay. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode? Well, actually, let's say what finally happens. Where Luke is.
Mariah and Tilda are having a tender moment inside her, I guess, apothecary, or, you know, herbal shop.
Yeah, herbal apothecary. Split the difference.
And, of course, Bushmaster's men are there to take out anybody that's related to Mariah or Luke Cage. And they start shooting the place up, and of course, Luke Cage shows up to save the day yet again. Does.
Not much of a hero if you don't come in at the last minute, you know?
But then he realizes, hey, we're going to need some help, and where have we gotten our help before, and who have I helped before? Oh, yeah, that's right, Mr. Danny Rand, Mr. Moneybags.
That's what he's there for. He's the barefoot billionaire. Okay. And with that, they head off to find a safe place to be because they know they can't go back to the police station. And we will see what happens with them next week. Mozz, if you would like to reach out to you, talk to you about shamanic herbal enhancements or Luke Cage or anything else, how can they find you?
Oh, they can reach me via email at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me that old-fashioned email way the way our Mozz and Paz and probably Buggy Stokes once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Cloak and Dagger, Gotham, and all the shows that are coming back this fall. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsscr. Look for the two E's in the middle. Bing! For quality. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sweet Christmas, brothers and sisters. Thank you for stepping into the cage with us once again. Don't hit your head on the way out. Good night.